Check one, two, three. Hey everybody, it's Michael Helms, also known as Michael the Sound Guy, and this is the Location Sound Podcast. You know, each episode we talk with location sound mixers, boom ops, and other industry pros about the various aspects of recording sound on location, whether it's for feature and independent films, TV commercials, interviews, any time where dialogue from actors is recorded. I started my career in the recording studios in New York City with some of the big artists back in the day, and later on projects for networks like HBO, Sci-Fi Channel, and the Cartoon Network. As time went by, I got out of the studio and began working in production sound. Whether you're a seasoned veteran or just starting out, thanks for joining us. Okay, my guest today is a production sound mixer and boom op based out of Los Angeles, California. Please welcome Brandon Sequeira.
Hey guys, it's Brandon here. Glad to be here with you.
Okay, Brandon, let's talk about what's in your audio kit. So give us a breakdown of all your gear.
All right, well, I run the Zoom F8, and that's what I'm actually recording on now. I also have, for my shotgun, the Sennheiser MKH-416. I own 4 Sennheiser G4s with the Countryman B3 lavs. I have an Lectrosonics LT transmitter to go to the Lectrosonics IFB receivers, so that way director, scripty, whoever else needs to hear. Oh, timecode, Tentacle Sync. I have one for my mixer, one for the camera, or if they both need to go on cameras, then they go to the cameras. And I own a Betso Slate.
Well, let's talk about some of the projects you've worked on. So I was kind of just glancing through, and there was one you did back. It was called Heist, a TV miniseries.
Yeah, Heist. That one was an interesting one. That one was shot on the first day of when LA had announced the curfew for COVID. And so we were all scared, like, oh, we're shooting till like 12, midnight. The curfew, we got to be out of here at 10. And so we were like, oh, what's going to happen? But I got to use the Ursa chest straps, and those worked really well, especially because our actor was wearing a tight shirt. And even with those tight shirts, they still hide, really well. Yeah, there was fire involved. There was, fake guns.
What was your primary role? Were you boom op or sound mixer?
So when I do a lot of these gigs, I'm usually both the boom op and sound mixer. I feel like that's a majority of what I get.
So were there any particular challenges that you had to deal with on this particular project?
This was kind of low budget, so it was kind of like fast paced. We need to get these shots, and we're in the back of a moving van. So yeah, I was trying to boom in there, but it was mainly, I think the lavs were doing most of the work, especially because there was a guy in the front seat and then people in the back. So, the boom wasn't getting the guy in the front because I was in the back. And I wish if I had time for that one, I would have put another mic in the cup holder facing the actor there, or even hit a lav on top of the visor. But this was just so like, we got to go, that he was mic'd up. So like I said, that was the struggle on that one.
Now, so they were wearing lav mics, and then did you have any issues with the seatbelt crossing?
I don't think he was wearing a seatbelt, because this was like, get in the van, and then get out of the van, and then, yeah, there's no seatbelt. I didn't have to deal with that, luckily.
I was checking out your Instagram, and you had something on there. It was a little trailer for Unwelcome.
Oh, that one was a fun one. Got a lot of attention. It was pretty cool. That one was a struggle too, because we were filming in this empty, abandoned warehouse. So you already know warehouses are really reverberant and echoey. And so one of the things I did to solve that, it's also a stunt kind of scene, a lot of the film. So the stunt people had those placemats, so when they land on them. And so for the dialogue scenes, when we weren't doing any stunts, I used that to cover at least like the sides where you can't see off camera, to kind of so that the dialogue is not bouncing off of anything and it's getting absorbed into the pad. So that was kind of one of my little tricks, to use what I have, try to lessen the echo. And then of course they were mic'd up. I told them, yeah, the best way to get less of the echo is just to have, we need the lavs.
So out of all the projects you've been working on lately, what's been your favorite one?
One of my favorite ones was they flew me out to New York and we filmed something called El Carrito, the cart. This one was a challenge for me because my first time filming in New York, lots of exteriors, and one of the locations was right by one of the train stops. So we have the trains coming and going every 10 minutes, 5 minutes. And, I tried talking to them like, we can't go over here and film this. It has to be in this place. So one thing I learned there to kind of combat all the background noise and cars and construction. So just miking them as close as possible to the source. Even they were wearing jackets, so a lot of times the stuff would like puff out this way a little bit. So getting even like on there as close as possible. And the end result actually went to the post house where they were editing it, and they were saying, "Oh my God, like what did you do? You saved us like a bunch of time." They're like praising me, and it was just, I'm glad that my strategy worked out. And it's good to hear that, because a lot of times we record stuff, it sounds great to us, but we want to know how the editors think of it. So it was just great to hear that everything worked out. And New York's not a quiet place. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, what kind of expendables do you like to use when you're laving people?
okay, so for the B3 mics, they don't really have any for them, so I got to use the B6, the Countryman B6 concealers. They still fit, so I use B6 Countryman concealer, and it has a little like paper clip thing to kind of push away from wrestling. I love to use a lot of the Viviana stuff, the foam pads. I use Top Stick. I use the Ursa sticky circles. Those work well, especially we were shooting on that same shoot inside, and it was really hot and the tapes weren't sticking, so I pulled that out. It stuck. I was even pulling on the lava a little just to make sure. They're like very sticky circles, so it's like for when none of the other tapes are not working, use that one. That same one, I used the Ursa the furry pads, because it was really windy in New York at that time. It was like really cold. Anything Viviana or Ursa, those are all pretty good stuff.
All right. Yeah, I think it was on Instagram. I saw you used like a strap on somebody's upper arm.
Oh yeah, she had this cape she was wearing that covered her arms and tied up here, and so I ran the mic. I believe I put it on where the cape was because there was some space, and so I ran it, and it was just that one. I could have honestly put the mic pack somewhere else, but I just was like, hey, I have time. I want to try to get a little creative. Maybe this might be more comfortable for you. I tried it there, and she loved it. She was like, hey, I'm all into it. Like, get creative, try something. And I thought it was cool. Also, but I think the positive side of putting it there is that now the pack has more of a connection to my receivers. They're up here instead of on the back facing away, or they're not getting blocked by anything, at least for the range.
Yeah, and nice idea too, because most of the time, yeah, it's behind them, and now you got a body in front of your transmitter, and so that's a good idea. So how do you usually get your next gig?
Okay, nowadays it's a lot of referral. A lot of people just say, hey, this person referred me. We're looking for a boom op / sound mixer. Are you available these days? What's your rate? And I get back to them, and I used to have to go and look for jobs, and I used some of the Facebook groups called Film LA, Job Posting, Los Angeles, Film Crew, whatever. And I would go on there, and they post, hey, looking for a sound guy this weekend or whatever, and I would comment on there, try to be one of the first ones, because if you're not one of the first ones, you get lost in the section. But so yeah, I used to do that, and that's how I used to get a lot of my gigs. But nowadays it's just like I get people texting me, emailing me, what's your availability, all that fun stuff.
I also saw that you do some composing as well.
Yes, I do compose. However, it's not one of my main things. I haven't composed in such a long time. I get so booked with production sound stuff that I hardly do composing anymore. I do have all the gear for it. I just bought more native instrument packs. I just like to do it on my free time sometimes, just make fun little beats or stuff that sounds like orchestrated. I love the film music. If I would be able to like go outside and people would be like, hey, what's your favorite genre? I'd be like, film scores. That's what I listen to. But I'm not opposed to scoring stuff, so like I'm always free.
All right. Well, how did you get started in production sound?
So I went to school at the Art Institute in San Bernardino, Inland Empire, and through that school, there was different art programs. So there was audio production, there was digital filmmaking, there was culinary arts, graphic design, you name it. And so I got connected with a lot of people there. I actually went to that school wanting to do sound design for video games. However, I got connected with all these film people through the school. They needed sound people, and I was like, hey, why not? I could do that. So I got all this experience on set, and that's how I got the picture of Dorian Gray. That was one of the things. Okay, there was this one specific day, one of my audio friends came into class, and he goes, hey, I need someone to take my gig. I need someone to cover me. Could any of you guys do it? And I was surprised no one in the class raised their hands. Like, there's this free opportunity, and no one wants to take it. I was like, sure. I rose my hand. I could take your gig. Show me how to use your equipment, and I'll be good. He had pretty much about the same kit as I do right now, and so that's kind of what inspired me to get that, because I was like, hey, I know how to use it, and blah blah blah. Yeah, I took his gig, and I ended up really loving it, and I kept wanting to pursue that, and I'm like, hey, where could I get this gear? Where do you get it at? And meeting more people through that school, I eventually got into this industry.
Did you have any mentors that kind of helped you out along the way?
As far as helping me along the way, I think more like knowledge and how to go about pursuing my career, because audio is, an art, and art is a lot of the times hard to get into for a lot of people. And so they were very helpful as far as guiding me in that direction. One of the things I remember from my professor, Ian Vargo, he mentioned like, hey, if you want to make it in this industry, don't go buying like new shirts every day. Like, go spend your money on equipment instead of going shopping for clothes. This shirt could be used over and over again. Just go buy some new gear or something. I was like, you know what? If I start saving, I could get a Zoom, and I could get all the Sennheiser receivers. And because at first, you look at the price, it's like, oh my God, like $1,000 just for this one little thing. But, it's possible, and you could do it. San Bernardino, where the school is located, is about like an hour away from LA. And especially with traffic, then that could be easily turned to 2 hours. So it's like when they said, all the work is going to be in LA, like no matter what. Like, so if you want to be in this industry, you got to commit, and you got to commute from here to LA. And I remember thinking, like, I don't want to drive to LA every single day. Like, there's got to be some stuff close by. And here I am now. I do it, and it's not a problem for me, just because, I love what I do, and I have to be there. Yeah, that was one of the things. It's just like, he was right. All the work is in LA. You just got to stay committed.
Now, do you have a travel strategy of getting to and from work?
I do. I have a cousin who lives in LA. He lets me stay the night there all the time. And so on those long overnight gigs, I crash at his place. And if they're for like 5 days, 4 days, I'll stay there for the week. When I have a small break, I'll head back home towards San Bernardino area. So if I'm not spending the night, I plan for a 2-hour travel time. So if it's at 8, I want to leave the house by 6, just to be safe. Even if it says it'll take me an hour 30 or an hour, you never know, because especially in the morning, that's when all the traffic happens. Everyone's going to work, and there's accidents, and there's road closures, and and it's always good to be early on set. I want to, know where I could set up, get to know everyone, know who's in which department. Yeah, and then getting all my gear onto set. So, I'd rather be there early than, be rushing to set up all my stuff.
Oh, yeah. No, I do the same thing, because you just don't know. I don't think I have to deal with the kind of traffic you do, but sometimes I'm an hour early. Just park the car, check some emails, take it easy.
Get some crafty.
There you go. Now, let's see. Out of all the projects you've worked on, do you have one that really stands out as your all-time favorite?
There's a reality TV show I worked on for NBC called The Riveras. And I met my sound friend Drew O'Donnell, and me and him have been best buds ever since. So if I wouldn't have met him on that day, like I don't know where I would be right now. He helps me so much. But yeah, so that was like one of the few times where I actually get to work with another sound guy. And we were both boom mopping and sound mixing because we had multicam. They were following people this way and following people that way. So we were both traveling with different people. Yeah, it was kind of like reality TV is fast paced. So just the challenge of just trying to get everything to sound right in a short amount of time. It's like playing a video game. Like, it's like, I want to win. I want to get this. I want to be the other guy. And, while he's out there doing his thing. And we even have like little sound competitions, like who could get the best sounding material. And it really helps just make sure we're on top of our game. And you don't want to send the client with bad audio.
Right. Now, were you using your personal kits or did you have rental gear?
That was rented gear. I think the mix pre-10, I think, with some electro transmitter and receivers, camera hops. Yeah.
So we talked about great project. What was your worst on-set experience?
One of the worst set experience I've had is when miking up an actor/director. So when things go wrong on set, there's discussions, there's arguments, and on this particular set, a lot of things were going wrong. The viewfinder wasn't working for the camera. They couldn't do anything. So we sat there for 2 hours waiting for a new viewfinder. They were trying to get a new one. And then just like time becomes an issue. And then so like they're trying to work out a way to do things. And it's like, well, she keeps being told no. And there was even crying on set. And it was just like everything was going downhill. And I try not to like, leave my headphones on or I'll turn off the channel or whatever. But some of the stuff was happening also like right after a scene, and it was just like hearing all the argument right in my ears. It was just like I got the biggest headache, and it was just I've never had that bad of a headache before. So that was one of the worst ones. But that production ran for like a week or two, and I was actually one of the last to stay on that film. A lot of people were switching out, and it was just like, I'm here to do my job, so that's all that matters in the end.
And you got paid.
Exactly. Yes.
Learning what you've learned, what would you recommend to somebody just starting out that maybe they could learn from?
Like we've been talking about before, is just like getting to know your kit, what you have. Then when you're on set, problem solving with what you have. Even though you may not have all these little accessories, try to find something to get the job done. I think that's something I've learned a lot, even till this day, now that I have more equipment. I'm still like having to rig something up in a weird way. So like yesterday I was on something and they wanted all these sound effects. I used an ankle strap. They wanted the exhaust of the car. So I put an ankle strap on the bottom and put the sensitivity way down, hooked up a mic there, and that was just a creative way to do something. Even if you were just starting out and you didn't have these straps, maybe you could get like a zip tie or something, or, get creative. Nothing's stopping you from getting that audio.
All right, cool. Is there any project that you want to talk about that we haven't discussed yet?
One of the recent ones I've done, we just finished. There's a total of 9 actors, so nine people is a lot. And with me having the Zoom F8 8-channel mixer, I can't fit all 9 people on this mixer. So, and they didn't want to rent me another kit, so I had to use my handheld Zoom that I have as a secondary to get those last couple tracks on there. This one, luckily, they had a boom op for me. And so I was able to just focus on getting these people mic'd up. And it was just like one after another. And it was like probably the fastest I've ever, put a chest strap on you and then put an ankle strap on you. And then, yeah, so my setup was kind of interesting. And I think I'm going to post it pretty soon here. I had 7 people on the Zoom F8 and then 1 boom. So that's 8 tracks. And then I had the Zoom H5, which is the handheld, which has 2 extra tracks. Oh, and this is another thing. The only thing they had for me as extra lavs, because I only have 4 transmitters and receivers. So the boom op brought over 3 extra ones. So now we have 4, 5, 6, 7. And then the last thing that they had for me was, I've never used this receiver before, but it was a Ceremonic. Yeah, so the Ceremonics, 2 transmitters going to 1 receiver. And that last receiver was coming into one of the H5. And then to make sure everything was in sync, I went out of my Zoom F8 into the next slot of my H5. So that way they could get the stereo to the H5. So that way they could get the slate and everything, from the boom track. some of these people, they don't know how to use the audio time code. And even when I try to explain to them, they think it's just an annoying sound. They think it's like, oh, something's wrong with the audio. I just sent the out so that way they could use the slate from that. But yeah, everything else was synced up. My Zoom F8 had time code. The cameras had time code. They were using timecode slate. But yeah, that one was an interesting one because of that setup. I had 2 mixers. I had to do half of my Zoom F8 on one ear and then another headphone coming like this way for the H5 just to make sure things were good. And, just in case batteries died or whatever, I didn't want to lose that audio.
Yeah. What advice would you give somebody just starting out in production sound? What would you tell them?
Really, really invest in your gear. People these days are hiring you mainly for your gear sometimes. So if you have, and it also helps you too, if invest in the right gear and you won't have that many problems on set. Yeah.
Well, if people wanted to reach out and connect with you, what's the best way to do that?
Best way is through my Instagram. That's where I even get a lot of jobs on Instagram too. I have people actually be like, hey, I found you through the discovery page. They're like, oh yeah, you just popped up on the little discovery page thing, and yeah, I saw your work and I want to hire you. So yeah, Instagram's my number one spot. It even has my email on there, so if you need to email me, you could email me there. My handle is brandon.s.mixer.
Well, Brandon, I want to say thanks for being on the podcast.
Cool. Well, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed my time here.
And I'd like to say thanks to everyone for listening. If you have questions or would like us to discuss a particular topic, email us at locationsoundpodcast@gmail.com. Until next time, remember, sound is half the picture.